Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Metagame Book Club. So today we have a few people with us. Some of our normal suspects. We have Kay. We have Cam, or Christine, as we call her many different names, using your screen name. We also have Trish as well. And I'm Chris. So, as always, when we always start off these presentations, we want to thank the Games and Sims Network, as well as the Inevitable Betrayal Guild for helping us out with putting these book clubs together and moving things forward. We've already introduced our panels, but here's all our names in case you guys want to refer to us in the Padlet comments. As you guys will see on the live stream page is down below, there's a little Padlet. Feel free to post your comments there, and I will make sure that it gets to the rest of the panelists. And this is for, as always, the Metagame Book Club, and this is running from July 20th to August 12th. So go ahead and turn it over to Kay.
Okay, so we're going to be doing, I just wanted a quick review of the social media. First of all, what we're going to be doing is using the hashtag metagame. And also we'll be using the hashtag GBL, and that's for game-based learning. Now, we also want you to try Voxer. So we have about 18 people on Voxer, and this is how you can go about getting onto Voxer. First of all, download it on your phone first. Otherwise, there's nothing for you to get onto. Okay, then you can email Trish, and then Trish will go ahead and add you to it, okay? Now, you will have to have downloaded Voxer and signed up, and you can just sign up through your own Twitter account. And she will need your Voxer ID so that she can invite you. And what Voxer is, well, first of all, get on it and try it. But basically, you can leave text messages. You can go ahead and link to something to show us in Dropbox, or you can do these quick audio messages. So jump on our Voxer group and have a look at it and see what you think. We're playing with it. Now, the other thing that we'd like to play with, okay, and this is from another educational group out there. Every Sunday night at 7 p.m. there is the Read for Fun education chat. Now, they do Read for Fun on Sundays, but they also do something on Wednesdays, and they call it Shelfie Wednesdays. And so during Shelfie Wednesdays, you're supposed to take a picture of the book you're reading. You know, go ahead and tweet it out using that hashtag. But then someone from that group suggested this week that you go ahead and you use Periscope. And Periscope is that live broadcasting, again, using your cell phone. Now, I tried it this Wednesday, but I have a Samsung. And because of that, the audio came over, but the video did not. Okay? So, I'm going to give it another try. I'm going to use an iPad this time. So, the thing of it is, what we're looking at is everybody for Shelfie Wednesday this week. If you feel like it, go ahead and grab your book and just read a little bit from it and do it over Periscope. Okay? And when you're doing it in Periscope, make sure you click on Twitter so it comes through your Twitter account and use the Shelfie Wednesday. And just give it a try. I mean, even though mine didn't come through, I started to think about this might be a really good thing to think about for students. Now, when it comes to Periscope, they only last 24 hours, so it's 24 hours and gone. So even if you do something really embarrassing, don't. Don't worry about it. Okay? So we're going to be looking at a couple things for Ready Player for week 1, but to get us started, we're going to do a review of the 80s pop culture. And we're going to have Trish go ahead and do that. So Trish, if you would unmute your mic and go ahead and share your screen, that would be great. So,
okay, I'm unmuted.
Cool.
And let me get to what I've done here is I've created an infographic that I will add anything to it that anybody would like for me to, but it's just sort of an infographic to go with Ready Player One while we're doing this because it just seems like it would make such a great infographic. Right here is just the beginning, and This right here is the presentation from Monday with Cam and Kay, where they were just talking about the beginning. So if you missed the first week's presentation, all you have to do is click on this and you can watch it. Here is a link to the FauxAsis for all of Cam's brutal riddles, if that's what you're into. And this I pulled off ErnieKlein.com, and this is the playlist for Ready Player One. Oh, sorry, wrong thing. Here we go. Now, this is from his website. So here are the links. If you don't have Spotify, here are the other places that you can look at all the music from Ready Player One. And here is the mixtape, and you can play them from there. And if you pick on this one right here at YouTube, it will, well, it's showing that it's private now, but you can get the entire playlist in video form for all the music from Ready Player One. So, as I said, it is a growing infographic, and so at this point, this is all I have. But after today, there will be more added to it, and I'll probably start throwing in a couple of videos and such from stuff from the 80s so that everyone can kind of get a visual reference of what he was talking about. In fact, earlier today, I was watching Cyndi Lauper's Girls Just Want to Have Fun, because it's very much 80s. I remember when that video came out. So that is where the infographic is so far. By the time it's done, it should be pretty big, but it should also be a pretty comprehensive, fun thing to look back through to talk about Ready Player One. And there you have it.
Okay, thanks, Trish. And I can see where this is growing. And yes, I'm finding myself listening to 80s music that I normally would not be listening to, just to go back. And it's also because, as Chris has been typing in here, because of Cam's evil riddles, a lot of us are going back and looking at things we normally wouldn't. And here I just threw this up as a transition because this is mentioned in the book. And what I'm talking about being mentioned in the book is, see that this is the Dungeon Master Guide, and guess what? James Holliday based a lot of his characters straight off of this, off of this cover, and have it in that key that's around the neck. So now we're going to continue on.
All right, we're going to kick off with places and people. So basically, we're going to start off with places because it gives you a good feel for the environment you're in. This book does start on Earth. Woohoo! Yay! So though the names of countries may be changed. So basically, it's a world in crisis. The idea is there's a global energy crisis, famine, post-nuclear war, cities disappeared in mushroom clouds, minimal jobs. Surprise, surprise. When there's no energy, when there's nothing to actually use to power your tools to build anything, there's not a lot of employment. A few large corporations are still out there. Most of them are big, large global corporations, and society's collapsing. And basically, what it is when you look at the novel, basically there's no middle class. Everyone is either in abject poverty or living in very, very, very wealthy splendor. And then basically, I guess their equivalent of the middle class in this book would probably be people who work for these large corporations who actually have the few jobs that are out there. We start off in Oklahoma City, but not this Oklahoma City, this one. So we have campers where people just basically ran out of fuel. Everyone from the rural areas tried to get to the closest urban centers they could before they ran out of fuel, and then when they got there, basically they decided the most efficient thing to do would be to get the campers and trailers and everything that people brought with them and stack them all up. And so this is sort of the environment in which you find yourself and the characters within the novel. The main environment that everybody's in is FauxAsis, and that stands for Ontological Anthropocentric Century Immersive Simulation, which is a virtual environment. And if you look at Kay's screen, you can see that she has one type of virtual environment there. This is World of Warcraft, but we'll go into that a little bit later. So this is where a lot of stuff happens. This is the real-life place where Wade hangs out in his van. So this is a fan rendering of what the inside of the van might have looked like. You can see very cramped, everything scavenged. There's the bike that he pedals to get some of his electricity and his solar panel. Lots of batteries, his little holo projector, and his goggles and his gloves. So basically, that's what you're seeing a lot of. So it's very much a world after a lot of world-changing events. And we end at level 1 with Wade moving to the ever-popular Columbus, Ohio. So that's where the places are so far that we've seen. So now the people. One of the things you'll find out really quickly is there's a ton of fan art. So those fans out there who put their art up there, you guys are awesome. So James Halliday, he was the creator of FauxAsis. His death is what started the egg hunt. And this is what everyone's searching for. The winner of this egg hunt will get his estate, so his billions and billions of dollars, as well as they get full ownership rights for the Oasis. So this is the environment that everybody's involved in. If as you read the book, everyone's part of the Oasis now, because that's the way, that's where they can go ahead and do a lot of either their work, or it's also where they spend any sort of leisure time, or it's where they spend to escape their real life situation. So Wade is also known as Parzival. And here he is. He's 18 years old. Well, actually, he ages during the book, so he's actually about 16, 17, and then he ends up at 18 at the end of the book, and lives in Oklahoma City. He is the first one to get the key, without giving too much away. And then, like as I said before, he moves to Columbus, Ohio, after IOI kills his remaining family. Sorrento is the head of Innovative Online Industries, or IOI. It's a multinational conglomerate. It wants the Oasis to commercialize it. So we'll have to have Cam do her evil fingers. So that because they feel that right now, as you read the book, is that everything in the Oasis is free. Everyone can get a hold of it. You can get a free account to get into it. If you want to do other things, you have to earn credits and earn the virtual currency to be able to do that. But right now it's free. And the other thing about the Oasis is it has all your personal information in it. And so Sorrento is part of this company that wants to commercialize everything and wring every last nickel and dime and penny out of the Oasis, if he is successful. Then we have the Sixers, or the Sexors. These are basically people who have given up their free will. No, they're people who have actually accepted employment jobs with IOI to solve the puzzles and capture the eggs. What they've done, though, is they have signed contracts that signs everything over to IOI. So but the thing is they get full resources from the corporation. So they get a salary. They get funding, they get housing, they get the best of equipment, they get access to researchers, and all this other stuff that this corporation has to try to solve this egg hunt. Artemis, Canadian blogger and Gunter. She is also one of the main female protagonists in this this novel. She is famous, so unlike Wade, she's actually really well known by the community. She's also Wade's cyber crush. And then we have H, which is Wade's best friend, hosts the Gunner meetups in his private chat room, and we just have the extra dot there just to make you guys think there's supposed to be something else there. But maybe we'll have to talk about that a little later. So right now we're going to leave that blank. So the other ones we have is Dato and Shoto. These are the Japanese brothers. So they are also Gunters, and they sort of Wade and everyone sort of runs into them. Level 1 wraps up with Artemis, H, Wade, as well as Dato and Shoto all sort of meeting together in a private chat room to try to figure out where they want to go and what they want to do and how do they want to respond moving forward, given the dangerous circumstances that level 1 closed out with, especially for Wade. So now we're going to go ahead and show you a little bit of the test for the first key. This might bring back, I'm just going to warn you, this may give you 80s flashbacks.
Yes. Okay, this is, I went and looked, and what I found is a video of the commercial created by Atari for this game. And as you can see, it looks like your typical 80s living room, and this is so 80s for those of you who were alive during the 80s. And here he's playing Joust, and this is the game that Wade was playing, or Parzival was playing against Anorak on the planet of Ludus, because if you remember, that's the first key, or the first place, ended up being on the planet where the school was. So as you can see, the joust is going on, and they joust on these really big birds. And so this commercial is very 80s, where Atari is making you feel like you're there in the game, which at that time in the 80s was something that we really didn't do, because if you can see, that doesn't look anything like the virtual environments we play games in today. So in this case, the kid is actually seeing the battle take place in his living room, and it just goes on with the jousting, where everything explodes and the kid wins, and he finds an egg, which I didn't quite understand this part because I don't remember Wade saying anything about getting one of the bird's eggs, but I guess this was Atari just being funny as the kid eats the egg and then starts turning into a bird himself. So there you have it.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of just lead us in our discussion questions, and we've had these posted on the Google Plus community, and there's been some responses already, and I invite everyone to continue to add their thoughts. And the first discussion question is just, what do you think about the book? What do you like about it or not like? Would you recommend it to someone else? Would you use it in your class or for another school activity? So what do y'all think?
Well, I love the book, but and I would recommend it to anyone who enjoys video games or just likes a good read. But for me personally, I could not use this in my school because it's a little too racy for the elementary set. But for middle school and high school, I think it would be great, or adults. But I just love all the video game references, and I also love all the 80s references because, well, we'll probably come back to that, something else I could talk about on that later, but for right now, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, I like the book. I mean, the thing I like about it is that it's an interesting. It kind of reminds me a little bit of For the Win, the first book we did in the book club, where it talks about it talks about the gaming. The difference is that you're sort of seeing what people were facing in the developing countries in For the Win. This is sort of like what everyone lives in now. Everyone lives in that environment, that hostile environment where there's threats. They're dealing with lots of different threats and fighting for survival. So there's that aspect to it. It's interesting that you have the big evil corporation trope is in there as well. I teach mostly business, so really for this class, I mean, it doesn't really get into the business of everything too much. That's there. So there's probably certain sections of the book I'd probably pull out to sort of say, so what do you guys think they're talking about when they're talking about like commercializing the Oasis. How would you commercialize the Oasis? How would you look to be more fair than Sorrento and IOI? But predominantly, like I said, this is it's a pretty nice read. It's a pretty quick read. I found it. I really like the book. So I think it's a good one. I'd recommend it to anyone else who's interested in reliving your '80s past.
Okay, I guess for me, and the reason why I'm not having my avatar's lips move is because then the audio would go over, and I don't want to bother. There's actually someone working with a teacher, and I don't want to bother them, so I'm kind of going stealth. For me, I would use this in professional development, actually, with teachers. And the reason why is, one, their students love the book. It's a great way to relate to your students, having read the book. Plus, as you're reading the book, I can totally relate, pull out aspects of it for people who aren't gamers so that they would get it. Things like Wade not having a lot of equipment because he was low level and he was poor. I'd be pulling out things like where my avatar is right now in Second Life and comparing, okay, do you see in Wade School, there's a virtual world that's like this. And then the different things where Wade's talking about muting or going to Jupiter and seeing things. I would use this as a companion to if I was showing teachers about games or virtual worlds. So that's how I would use it.
I really loved all the 80s references too, and I think it might be an interesting book to kind of bridge whatever gap there may be with younger people, because I feel like I would be the expert on the 80s that they may or may not be, and be able to say, yeah, when I was growing up I played Atari, and these were all the games I played, and but the younger kids would really probably get into the virtual reality, and I also love any story that's the underdog fighting against the big bad powerful corporation, as Chris mentioned. Yeah. So the question 2 is looking at the Oasis as a school. I think all of us as educators, we really caught on to that at the beginning, even though it's not a huge part of the actual story and the plot. But watching Wade going to school, so the question is kind of like, what's good about the Oasis School? What is powerful about it? What did they not do so well? And what could we use out of that? What ideas could we pull? I thought it was really cool that they could do the virtual field trips, and when they were talking about Jupiter's moons, they could actually be on Jupiter's moons. I think that is super powerful, and I feel like some of that we could do visually. If not actually having the kids standing on it, perhaps. Although, Minecraft and Second Life, perhaps we could. So what do you all think about the Oasis School?
So I'll start off, I guess. For me, it was interesting. I mean, my program, the program that I'm an associate dean in, is a fully online program. So we're using an LMS that's mostly text-based. So we don't. What I like about it is the 3D component. You can do a lot more with the 3D piece to it. So I agree with you, Christina, that it's kind of interesting that it's interesting how they're utilizing the medium to go ahead and put students actually in immersive settings where they can actually be in a situation or be in a simulation or be in a recreation or in a historical battle with minimal basically whether there's nothing that really can happen to their avatar, because since they stated it was a school sim, so there was no PvP fighting, there was no damage taking, it was a safe zone, so like everyone was wrapped in bubble wrap. So the thing is that everyone was safe there, so they could have a really fun experience with it. It was interesting that sort of if we went to the bad part of it, I mean, really the only bad part I saw was that you could, if you wanted to, be as antisocial as you wanted. In that game, there was no sort of force. There was not sort of the socialization you have in your normal school, because the students were able to simply ignore everybody. The only person that they couldn't ignore was the instructor. So they could actually have, because remember whenever he was getting taunted by the one student, he just said, okay, he shouted some comments at him and then just set him to ignore. So not necessarily the best way to deal with conflict resolution, but there was, so there's that piece to it. The other piece, that they look at is at this point in the game. I mean, I've read a little ahead, so I'm not going to spoil it for anybody else. But right now, one of the bad things about the game is that everyone just sort of sits there in the game. They're sort of just sitting around. Later on, we'll find out there's actually more pieces that people can use that'll change that sedentary aspect to it. But what we can use, I mean, I think it definitely opens up the door to get people thinking about how they could possibly use games and simulations and other virtual environments and other multimedia pieces in their classes and how they can use it. Though I didn't see anything in this book mentioning accessibility issues. So we'll have to see if there's alt tagging and things like that we have to deal with all the time in education.
Well, as far as the virtual field trips, the big thing that I saw at ISTE this year that a lot of educators from my district were doing was the Google Cardboard and going on virtual safaris. Last year, Google Cardboard had just kind of come out, and this year it seems to be being used more and more and more. So if you've got a right-sized cell phone and slide it in that cardboard, and you can do a kind of Oculus Rift on the cheap. So that would be one way. In the virtual field trips, using Google Earth for virtual field trips. The thing that really struck me about this was the classrooms were still set up in rows, and it was still, I mean, this is 50 years beyond now, and so already, with Sir Ken Robinson's video about how we're still teaching children in an industrial revolution type mode of factories and everything, where everything is in rows, I was very surprised to read that the school was set up and they were in rows with the teacher in the front of the class. And even though they're doing these virtual field trips, going to Jupiter or Pluto or whatever, you would think that they had changed, they would have also moved forward in how they set up the classrooms and had students interacting, because even now you have students more of a personalized learning of where students are self-pacing and the teacher is seen more as a facilitator instead of someone just spewing information at the students. And I wonder if this could have been Halliday still reminiscing over the glorious 80s and just building the schools as he remembered them, which I don't know that Halliday had that great a school experience. So it's an interesting way to look at it because of the fact the Oasis was so forward thinking of where you could be anywhere or be anything, but then school was this other thing, which was very strange to me. But that's my thoughts on it.
Okay, well, I guess for me, for having been in online for quite some time and having tried to bring lots of instructors into Second Life, a lot of them, they want, when they first come into a virtual world, they want to build the exact same thing that they had face-to-face. And you just see that over and over again, that they have to do the familiar before they do anything else. Like, I mean, for example, here, this is Mobile Learning's area, and it is a building, but it's a very familiar place. And what Laura's doing right now is giving an orientation to a new teacher, and she brought her to a very familiar place so that she'd feel good about it. Now, I just wanted to, because I was ready for this question, I just want to take you guys to a couple places. And I'm going to take you to one of the universities. And Caledon. Caledon, I'll take you to their lecture hall. So we're going to teleport. In Second Life, you can just teleport. It's not like it is with Wade, because with Wade, the Oasis is set up as an economic center, so you can't do anything without having money. This is a little bit better. So now we're here in Caledon, and look what they got right here. They have a lecture hall. It's a beautiful lecture hall. And Caledon is as you'll see, is a beautiful campus. It looks like something, straight from England. But I mean, this is the possibility. And I have to say, if you're going to be dealing with something like a text-based LMS, think about how much different this is. Where a student can go in and you can have an avatar, and you can actually have the presence of having other people around you, even though it's virtual. But there's a difference with that instead of just reading text. So I wanted to show you beautiful Caledon, and now I'm going to get out of there real quickly, and I'm going to switch because there's a game that a lot of us play called World of Warcraft. and the thing about World of Warcraft is even better than what I showed you there. So hold on, let me pull this screen up. Let me share. And my avatar has been sitting there, as you can see. She's been sitting there waiting for us to show up. This one looks a little different. But take a look at this visual. Take a look at, how about having school here with dragons? Take a look at this. And it's in World of Warcraft, and people will know this, but think about if this was the school that you entered. And I'm going to an area that's not very populated right now in World of Warcraft, but just think, if you had all this to look at. And there's this spot in this place that, and it's called, I believe, the Room of Wisdom. And I'm just going to run my character over there. We're running past the Hall of Tranquility, past the Jade Vault, and then take a look at this, the Chamber of Wisdom. How about if you had your class in here instead? And this was the area that you learned in. Okay, I've been told that we might have lost the screen. So I'm hoping it's come back again now. Okay, so this is the hall. So this is the Hall of Wisdom. Just think if you got to have your class there. And I'm just going to move the camera around a little bit so you can see it. But think about this as being your classroom. And what if you could go up to any of the books you see and click on them, and they showed up just like a Kindle? For me, this would be one of the areas that I would love to have as a school.
Yeah, I think that part of what a virtual reality school could be, you've got that question of, like, could you have a really cool, engaging environment like this versus just another classroom, but virtual? But the other part was, I feel like what Trish was saying about it being, the Oasis school being so teacher-directed. And I certainly hope that we are moving more and more towards student-directed and collaborative work. I know that that's happening in schools. But and I think that in the book it wasn't that way because that didn't serve Klein's purposes in writing the story, and he wasn't an educator, so he might not have been, he was thinking about his school experiences and couldn't get out of that box, really. And he used the school just to get information across to the reader.
And the other thing that I would say about that is Wade only started when he was in 6th grade, and he was in 12th grade now. So 6 years to go from a paradigm of sitting in the rows to try and get it. In education time, 6 years isn't much. 6 years is not much at all. and we have a comment here. This is from Jerry, and his Padlet comment. It seems that they want to stay in that familiar place as well. The architecture environments we create don't just recreate the physical ones we're familiar with. They also recreate the social arrangements associated with what we have, what we're familiar with. Yeah, and I would agree with that. Putting the student in the desk and having them be in rows, and you know, that's a way to adjust to getting students from a face-to-face class into online very quickly.
Okay, I think we're ready to move on to question 3, and that was looking at the oasis as an escape. I have a couple of quotes on this slide. Wade says, "We had been born into an ugly world, and the oasis was our one happy refuge," and definitely talks about how in a world that where a lot of people are suffering and it's not a pleasant place at all, that the oasis is clean and interesting and engaging in a way that the real world can't be. And you know, there's definitely so many resonances here with Jane McGonigal's book Reality is Broken, about how the reality of what we live in is not as rewarding sometimes as the virtual worlds or the games that we play. But Mauro, Halliday's partner in the Gregarious Games company, he had a falling out with Halliday as they developed the Oasis, because he felt like it was problematic. He said that the Oasis was a pleasant place for the world to hide from its problems while human civilization slowly collapses, primarily due to neglect. And if we could go to the next slide. So I guess the discussion question is, you know, is this virtual world just an escape for people in like Wade? And is that all? You know, is that all it's limited to? And what about us as we go into these games and virtual worlds and online contact? Is that just an escape, or can it be more than that? So, what do y'all think? I have a feeling that we're going to be a little bit biased in how we respond to this.
Well, for me, I think it's a little of both. You know, I think it depends on how you use it. With virtual environments and games, is that it can be an escape. It's a place to decompress. It's a place to you know, get away, let your mind wander while you do some other stuff, like mindlessly grinding rep in games. So I mean, there's different things you can use it for. So I think it's a little bit of both. But I mean, we also do a lot of productive stuff in virtual environments. You know, I've given plenty of presentations and gone to conferences virtually, not just via webinar, but in virtual worlds and conferencing. So there's a lot of advantages of using a virtual environment like an Oasis. That has lots of use. I mean, there's business within the Oasis. There's people earning those credits. That the game currency can be converted into real world money, even in Wade's world. So I mean, so for me, I see it. It just depends on your use of it, and it also depends. But it's primarily driven by the individual. It can be an escape. It can be an actual, you know, progressive or productive endeavor as well. So there's a lot of people. I just saw in Second Life there are people who were able to get beyond their physical limitations, whether they had mobility issues or they have different developmental issues. Moving in virtual environments allowed them to have freedom that the physical world does not allow them to have. So so there's lots of benefits to using these virtual environments, but there's also some constraints as well. I mean, we haven't learned how to subsist on virtual food yet. So you still have people who, you know, there's some people who have issues. Typically, you hear about it in Southeast Asia, and it's you know, sensationalized, where people forget to eat. They're so addicted to the game, they're so tied to the game that they never take breaks for food, or they never take breaks for, you know, as we would call them, bio breaks. To go ahead and do the normal human activities that must always happen. So sometimes you see people get a little too embedded into the virtual state. So, but yeah, I can see relationships I've developed virtually are just as strong as those I've developed with those in proximity to me. So I think that it just depends on the users and the user's decision on how to spend their time.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that just like in all things in life, it's a matter of balance, because what I do in virtual environments is just fun. It's my hobby, and I know that it can be used for all sorts of things. For classes and for going places you would never get to go, like the virtual field trips and everything. But it is necessary to maintain balance, because real life is real life. And just as I believe in this section that you start wondering who is this person behind the avatar, because that is something that you just don't know, because honestly I do not look like my avatar in World of Warcraft. It's a large cow. But there is that question of the person behind the avatar. Is it, and it's like I believe Wade said at one point in this section about the person being a fat balding guy named Chuck, because he didn't know, because you just don't know who that person is, because all you're going on is what you see in the virtual environment. And people do use it as an escape, and this is where the balance comes in. This is where there has to be a healthy balance in your life, to where you are spending time with people who are flesh and blood, and that you have real life contact with. I mean, it's like one of the greatest things for me is that when I first met Chris and Kate, it was several years ago in the Games MOOC, and and you, Cam, because I met you in game too. And one of the coolest things ever was when I met you for the first time at NC Ties, and that you actually put the face with the avatar and you actually see that person in the flesh. It kind of makes that virtual friendship even stronger, because now it's bridging the virtual environment with real life, and you've had real life contact with those people. I'm not saying that the friendships that I have with people from World of Warcraft are not real friendships. They are. But it sort of adds a layer of I don't know, just an extra layer of reality or something. And I'm wondering, have people spent so much time in the Oasis that their touch of reality, their grasp of reality is so very tenuous that there is no reality to them anymore. So Oasis is as real to them as real life, because real life is pretty sucky during that time, excuse my language, but it is, because of living in stacks of trailers with 14 people in an RV is not a happy way to live. So do we use the digital life as an escape? To some degree, but I also believe that it can be a good thing for you too, because think of what Jane McGonigal talked about as far as the healing that goes on, where if you put burn victims or people who've been hurt, if they play a video game, it takes their mind off the pain, because they're in another environment where they're away from the pain in their mind. So there are many good things about virtual environments.
Okay, so if I'm gonna jump on, well, yeah, look at what I'm showing you. Is this an escape? Possibly, but I will tell you, no question. In the book, it is used as an escape from this horrible, horrible place that the world has become, where no one has other than the one character of Artemis, no one has any hope or dreams of changing it. But you see, something like this can also be entertainment for a lot of people. This subs for your television time, or it subs for your reading time. Think about how you immerse yourself. Everybody here has immersed themselves in a book. Okay, so the immersion element here is a little different. I mean, you normally wouldn't get the feeling of flying while in that book, unless the author was really, really good. And I guess what I wanted to say, as far as relationships online and stuff like that. Look, we live in a global environment these days. I am constantly on online meetings and working with people who are not located at the same place that I am. It's a skill that our students are going to have to be able to develop. They're going to have to be able to get on a Hangout or whatever the platform is in 10 or 15 years, and they're going to have to be able to develop trust with people, work in teams, know how to project manage, know how to be members of those teams, and being in virtual environments and games today is helping them develop that. And their skills might even get more developed than our skills.
And I'm going to just jump in as we kind of wrap this part up. And I was thinking about, how well do we know people who are we interact with online or through virtual environments? And I was thinking about Trish, what you said about Wade not really knowing who Artemis was. But I think from his reading of her blog, he knew who she was. Like, he knew her sense of humor. He knew what she thought about things. Like, when you know people from a virtual environment, maybe you know their internal life better because they share their thoughts. They share how they feel about things maybe. And even in real life, when you meet people, we don't share all of ourselves, even when we meet physically in person. So I just wanted to add that comment about how do you know people that you're talking to digitally. But if that is all of our discussion on that question, this book leads to some great conversation, I think. All right, so the FauxAsis. Boy, it's really been fun being the game master here, I will tell you that. But I'll let everybody know, I experienced this first in your position of reading those riddles and being completely befuddled. So I know where you're at, although I'm certainly enjoying my position now. But I encourage you to stick with it. I think we have 6 or 7 people on the leaderboard now. I have been posting the link to the new module. I've been trying to do it fairly early in the morning on the actual website, and then a little bit later in the day posting it on the Google Plus community. So if you want an early shot, check the website earlier in the morning on Mondays and Fridays. And just good luck. So yes, our current riddle is, beyond the Goblin City, Sarah spoke, you have no power over me. Is this word too obscure for thee? George Lucas, there's a first time for everything. And the question is, what is to be done with the elephant? And I will just say, make sure you're answering the question, folks. And good luck.
Okay, so a couple of the other things that we're doing is Ingress. And we had a wonderful hangout when it came to Ingress earlier this week, so go ahead and take a look at it. Cynthia answered so many questions we didn't know before, and fortunately we knew some of the questions to ask this time. And I wanted to say a shout out to Tammy, who's in a rural area. There were a couple things that Cynthia said, that if you're in a rural area, first of all, if you're in a rural area, you are you have a better chance at getting the badge for holding a portal for 150 days. So there's this really hard to get badge for if you hold a portal for 150 days. And your chances of getting that badge and a couple of the other things are better if you're in a rural area. Then they have another thing about building fields. Well, the teams that go out and build fields usually go into rural areas to build the fields because there's less population and to go ahead and flip the portal. So the chances are that there might be one of these big field teams around where you are, and they might be a nice group of people to get involved with. So in rural area, the game plays a little different than urban areas. And we'll continue on with Ingress. The other thing that we put up for this week, so for this week, our other one was The Gods Will Be Watching. And I don't know that everybody's been playing it, but The Gods Will Be Watching is an interactive fiction game. Basically, there's a couple pictures and characters, but it's more of reading the script and trying to figure it out. And it's a survival game. There's no question it's a dystopia one. And I've been going in and playing just a little bit, and it's just one of these games where you go in, play it a little bit, die, and then you go, oh, okay, now I learned that thing. Now I'm going to go back and do it again. So very much like the experience that you've been reading about. So go ahead and play that. And also to wind up, week 2 readings, here's what they're going to be. It's level 2. So it's level 2, and if you're reading on the book, it's pages 166 to 266. We'll also have you looking at the game Zork this coming week. And we're going to fully open the Dystopian Arcade. Okay? John Spike has gotten it ready for us, and he has 4 games ready that we can play that are not ideal, idyllic situations where you can give to your students, and there's really going to be a discussion about these. and there's lots of different parts that you can pull out. So I wanted to check from anybody. Do you have any parting thoughts for next week? Anyone? No, it doesn't look like we have parting thoughts, but we are getting ready for next week. So thank you for watching, and we'll do a quick overview on Monday, and that's going to be at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, but it'll be a short one like last time, like 10 minutes, just giving you an overview. So thank you very much for watching, and bye, everybody.